Hey, hello. I'm Tunesy. If you couldn't tell by the channel name, of course. Oh my goodness, guys. Today's day freaking 37. I can't even put on my fingers anymore. Again, 35. But today's 37. Um, and yeah, 30 freaking 7, guys. In literally like 3 more days, it's gonna be day 40. Can y'all believe that? That's absolutely freaking crazy. Today's state is freaking Oregon. I don't really know much about Oregon. If I'm gonna be honest. But yeah. And today's song of the day is 100 Sleepless Nights by Pierce the Veil. The genre is post-hardcore and alternative rock. I love Pierce the Veil very much. They're probably like one of my top bands. I can't really rank my bands because I love all my bands equally, but yeah. But yeah, today's state Oregon. Um and my voice still really hurts. I keep waking up in the morning with my throat really sore. I don't know why. Maybe I'm sick. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't get. I'm so glad I didn't get sick at all during this series, though. Such a such a miracle. I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully I don't jinx it or anything. But yeah. Also, I didn't mention my last video, but I busted my lip. That's the only bad thing that happened. But I'm not slurring or anything, so I'm good. I'm okay. Thank you guys for asking. But yeah, let's get freaking started. Again, I'm repeating myself. Today's state is freaking Oregon. Oregon seemed like a western, old western type of state. I know it's not in the western because I think it's. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that. Today's crime is about the Ardenwald Axe Murders. I think this is the third murder with an axe that has axe murders in it. Not gonna lie, they're starting to be they're starting to get a bit too much. Um, And yeah, I think in the first act video, which was I don't even remember, but I think it's Valiska. I was like, I think this is the only axe murder video I'm gonna have. No, I lied. I think I have like two more. This one and then another one. But yeah. Anyways, this story's a bit older. It happened in the 1911s, somewhere around there. And yeah, in the spring of 1911, William Hill, his wife Ruth, and Ruth's two children from her previous marriage, Philip Rintoil and Dorothy Rintoil, moved into a cottage in the rural community of Ardenwald, Oregon, then located immediately south of Portland. William had built the cottage himself, and the family moved into the home in early May of that year. On the morning of June 8th, Ruth visited the law offices of her brother and father in Portland, who later stated that she seemed disturbed about something, which she never disclosed. At approximately 8 a.m. on June 9th, the wife of C.W. Matthews, a neighbor of the Hills, knocked on the front door of their home after her husband noticed that William had not left the residence as he normally did each morning to catch the interurban streetcar to his job at the Portland Natural Gas Company. Upon receiving no answer, Miss Matthew peeked into the front window of the home and saw the bloodied body of 5-year-old Dorothy lying on the floor. Clackamas County Sheriff Ernest Mass arrived shortly after the Matthews reported the crime. It was estimated that the murders occurred around 12:45 a.m. based on a broken clock in the cabin that had stopped at that time, along with the neighbor's report that his dogs had begun barking loudly around this time. The bodies of Ruth and William were discovered entangled in bed, Ruth lying beneath that of her husband. It was determined that after William had been beaten to death with an axe, Ruth was then struck twice in the head. After both parents were deceased, Philip was subsequently beaten to death, with Dorothy being the last to die. The bloodied axe used in the murders was left in the Hills' home, propped against the foot of Dorothy's bed. It was determined by authorities that the axe did not belong to the Hills and had been stolen from the front porch of Joseph Delk, who lived approximately 3/4 mile north of the Hill residence. Most of the windows of the house had been covered in cloth and garments by the perpetrator to conceal the crime. Though some jewelry was missing from the Hill residence, other valuables and money were left behind, leading Sheriff Mass to exclude robbery as a motive for the crime. Because of the violent and sexual nature of the murders, Mass believed that sex was the motive and that the assailant may have been a pedophile. In order to assist the investigation, Mass brought a bloodhound from Seattle to complete searches of the Hill property and the surrounding area. But these efforts did not prove fruitful. A coroner who examined the bodies stated that William's injuries had left his head completely chopped to pieces on the right side, especially on the right side above the eye, deforming his whole face. Ruth also sustained a severe skull fracture that extended from above her right eye across her whole face, as well as another fracture that broke her teeth and lower jaw. Dorothy had sustained several skull fractures to both the front and back of the head from an axe blade, while Philip's head wounds appeared to have been inflicted with the handle of the axe. Based on examination on Ruth's body, it was determined she had most likely been raped after death, while Dorothy had been sexually assaulted prior to her murder. Bloody fingerprints were found smeared on Dorothy's bed, as well as on Philip's arm. On the morning of the Hill murders, Edward Ramsey was arrested at Oak Bottom while attempting to float on a makeshift raft. After his arrest, it was believed by authorities that Ramsey had been the subject of a series of complaints regarding an unknown man lurking in the communities east of Portland. Ramsey lived in the woods and subsisted by trapping animals and stealing food. Though initially considered a suspect in the Hills murders, he was ultimately cleared of suspicion. On December 20th, 1911, Nathan Harvey, who lived 100 yards from the Hill residence, was charged with the murders of all four victims. Harvey had been in land dispute with William Hill prior to the murders. Upon investigation, it was discovered that Harvey had already been loosely connected to various gruesome crimes. In 1892, Mamie Welsh was murdered in a strawberry patch on Harvey's property, and her body was found lying next to an adjacent road. A series of other murders and mysterious deaths occurred within the Harvey family. In 1890, one of Harvey's brothers shot their mother to death before killing himself. And in 1877, one of Harvey's other brothers was found drowned in a mill pond in Milwaukee. Upon questioning Harvey's neighbors in Ardenwald, Mass reported that several women reported that Harvey had made improper proposals to them, as well as insulting them. Mass subsequently stated that he had absolute proof that Harvey had taken the last train to Ardenwald on the interurban railroad from Cazaduro, which arrived in Ardenwald at 12:25 a.m. on the night of June 9th. Two witnesses stated that they saw Harvey exit the train at Ardenwald station at this time. Despite the charges, Harvey had a large number of supporters who professed his innocence and protested his arrest. On December 23rd and 26th, mass meetings were held in Milwaukee and Selwood, during which over 500 signatures were gathered calling for the charges to be dropped. Some locals, however, spoke out against the protests, with one anonymous landowner telling the Oregonians, except by his friends, Harvey is feared. Those are those possessed of evidence in the case that could incriminate Harvey. If fears of possible retribution from the man are allayed, I think they can be induced to tell what they know. While Mass was convinced that Harvey was behind the murders, the charges against him were ultimately dropped on December 27th, 1911, pending further investigation, and he was released during a preliminary hearing. In February 1912, a Clackamas County judge formally closed further investigation into Harvey. In May 1917, William Reagan confessed to shooting William Booth in Wilhelmina in October 1915. During his confession in the killing, Reagan also claimed to have witnessed the Hills murders, along with a Mexican man who went by the name Brown, and a man named William Flynn, the latter an aliasis of Edward Ramsey. Reagan claimed to have met the men in Oregon City and that they planned a robbery scheme together, looting local homes. According to Reagan, he watched outside the Hills cottage while Brown, armed with an axe, and Flynn entered to rob the family. Reagan claimed to have waited outside the cottage for approximately 30 minutes, during which he heard children screaming inside. After the murders, Reagan claimed Brown and Flynn exited the cottage with approximately $1,400 worth of gold and silver. For his role in the robbery, Riggin claimed to have been paid $100. Upon further questioning, Riggin changed his account of events, instead claiming in a formal statement to have participated in the robbery and murders with Ransom, not the anonymous Brown and Flynn. Riggin's two diverging accounts were riddled with inconsistencies regarding the Hills cabin and other logistics. Despite this, Riggin was able to point out specific locations regarding the crime, including the site of the cottage, which had been demolished after their murders. It's always the face that it's always the face they go towards if they work with axes. Why? Like, just don't do it. I don't think they ever found the murders, which is very strange because I feel like they had a lot of evidence to find it, but who knows? Maybe it was the second guy I mentioned that had a lot of supporters. But that's the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow's day 38. Can y'all believe that? And yeah, I think this is the last axe murders related thing, so don't expect to see any more. Um, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.